So we're going to be using the Microsoft Calculator official project that exists on GitHub today, which is using the official Windows OS also. We forked this application and we're going to be using this project for a demo today. So we'll say it Microsoft Calc. And we're going to connect this fork. So we have Brew.studio already connected. We are going to give access to the repo, which is calculator. So we see that the repository is now linked and it's waiting for the files to get indexed and the additional context we passed. Maybe if you refresh the page, we'll see that there is about 101 file identified in C++ and it's getting passed right now. So we'll look at this in a minute now. Now I think the repository has also gotten indexed. Most of the files, about 66 files, have additional context attached to them. So now we're going to go ahead and look at inside the project. We have no requirements as well. So what we'll do is use the feature called as analyze requirement. So you type in your requirement or the change request in plain language, and Brew is going to analyze this. So for the demo purposes, again, we have taken this feature request from GitHub itself, the same repository, the calculator app. A user is wanting to introduce a cryptocurrency conversion into the unit converter of calculator app. So this feels like a good change request that might entail different parts of the repository and henceforth maybe affect different parts of teams also. So what we'll do is simply for now, we're going to copy this description and we're going to feed it into Brew. Right, this is going to be also markdown supported. So that's done. Now we'll hit analyze requirement and we'll let Brew spin, and once it is done with the analysis process, it's going to let us view the impact analysis that it has been able to generate. We can go ahead and click the requirement to view the impact analysis. So here the top overview of where this requirement impacts and affects is given at the very first page. This is your home view of the impact analysis, saying that there's a currency converter that primarily impacts the currency data loading pipelines. That's what seems relevant if you have to add crypto conversion in the calendar or the calculator app, right? Talks about a drop down that lists the unit. Yeah, so that's the overview. It's identified there are 7 impact items divided across backend, front-end, and database models. 8 files are affected overall according to Brew, and the risk level to introduce this feature identified as medium. So here is how the impact shows up. We have the UI UX or the front end. So it's stating over here that we need to introduce a drop down to add the currency converter or the crypto for the crypto section. So yeah, it's correctly identified a UI component in the functionality. It's talking about the exact file where this change needs to occur. So that's what the citation is. And similarly, if you go ahead and look at the source code or the data source model, you'll also see that there are changes that are listed that need to be kind of taken care of. And so you can view all of these changes and identify if there's something that you need to kind of change. And if you need to change something, you can either edit that item directly, right? This is how you supervise your results. We also list down the risk and mitigation. So here's what Brew has identified. Maybe incorrect or misleading due to current formatting pipeline. So yeah, it's talking about some kind of a formatting issue that might occur, which can be misleading in the UX or the UI. That's something that should be taken care of. And it's also stating how it can be mitigated, what other advices it is giving you. So the next step to go ahead is to generate a plan, which we are going to feed into our coding agent. So I'll go ahead and click that. It'll take a few minutes to generate this implementation plan, which consists of all the assumptions that have been made over here, the citation, the files and everything. And it'll create that implementation plan accordingly, which I'll feed directly to my AI coding agent. So we'll move to that step next. Now we have the implementation plan ready as well. It states the goal clearly, it shows all the assumptions and context that is available in terms of the files that need to be looked at. Why are they being cited is also kind of given with the line number, obviously. It rates it or exemplifies this through input and output format, gives an explanation attached to it, and also shows how this needs to be tested later. So I'm going to just copy this into my previously forked application, previously forked repository, paste the requirement over here. So use Claude Opus 4.5. Let's say that we have this requirement.md, and we say that implement the requirement defined in and maybe right. So I have taken the implementation prompt as is. I've fed that to the AI coding agent, and it's going to do the needful now. Look through the documentation, create a to-do for itself. So it's going to go through all the changes, and we're going to see how that can be reviewed on Brew automatically. So the feature is done. Has gone through the overall to-do, created tests. It shows about 9 or 8 file changes. Okay, we have our dev branch checked out, the one on which we create a pull request. So right, and we push this change. Okay, so the pull request is generated. We go here, we see that it's prompting us to create a pull request anyways. We're going to say that the base is going to be our main for now, so that we're only experimenting with this right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and create, right, we're creating a pull request towards the base. So at this point in time, Brew again starts with a analysis process where if it identifies that this issue is linked to a requirement, it's going to be reported, and they will. So we're going to look at that in our dashboard. It's identified the link between this requirement and the commit and has moved the status into in progress, because the pull request, as you saw earlier, is pending, which is over here. Right. So whenever you have a pull request, it's going to analyze, find a link, and then move the requirement into in progress automatically. So we go into the requirement, and now we are able to see that there is a delivery overview available for the code that we have written. It's stating the number of bugs that it is able to identify, the summary of the change of 511 additions and 29 subtractions. And this is just out of the box. I've not really reviewed the code yet, which is actually written by the coding agent. So I'm just seeing it for the first time over here. The coverage on the requirement itself is about 50% with the code that is written. The expected behavior was for the user to be able to select major cryptocurrencies conversion using real-time crypto exchange rate and etc. And the current behavior is actually that units are added to metadata ratio payload. So that means it's kind of hard-coded. It is stored with the is crypto per asset fractional digits. That's the type. I think it's a type class or an interface. Yeah, so it's kind of showing that it's not really using a real-time crypto exchange rate as per the original requirement, and the actual behavior is basically hard-coded right now. So we can look that into detail, the coverage itself. So now we are able to see that the number of items that are partially covered or are not covered or are covered. Right? So all the details are kind of viewed over here. So we can go into each of the section and see what is partially covered. And we can also see why does Brew think that it is partially covered. It says that for this particular UI requirement, it meets the ordering requirement, but does not implement a distinct UI section header for crypto entries. Right, so that's what was listed initially in our impact analysis, but the code really doesn't implement it. And Brew also kind of links it back to the actual code that is written, right? So it'll filter the file affected tab will show you a filtered view of all the changes that are related only to this impact item, and it'll also try to highlight it for you. Sometimes it doesn't work because you're obviously giving a demo, but yeah, if it is able to highlight that code for you, it'll also show you that this exact code or this particular code really implements what you're asking for, right? If you clear this filter, you will be able to obviously see all the files, and every file is also linked with each impact item, which has a vice versa link. So I can click from here and also kind of go back to that item. So this is another backend related item which is completely covered from top to bottom, and it says that these are the evidences why it thinks that this is completely covered. Going back to the related code view, and all the changes are listed from you. So like this, it kind of highlights and shows you that this is the place where we say that okay, this requirement is covered or not. Right? So it'll show you all the files that way. There is also this bit where it shows you potential issues that might crop up because of this change. So it says that again, the rounding error, which we saw in the initial risk, also is kind of being highlighted over here. Highlights things on the business layer as well. So that is the overall implementation of the cycle of how things look. Once the requirement is done, and maybe if the requirement coverage has not automatically moved to 90%, this is not going to be considered done. Right? So either I can mark it as done by myself, but the status now will update to merged.